if I think about it and analyze it, I find that my entire being, everything, what I consider to be me and mine, was and is given to me. I find myself in the midst of things that are given to me. It is given to me by none other than Ishvara, my Creator. It is given to me through the sacred paths of my mother and father. Given to me. My mind, the ability to think, my body, the ability to grow the body, the ability to have things that can help me grow the body, such as food, nutrition, given to me. My ability to process them, to find food, given to me. My thoughts, my directions, my desires, all given to me. My samskaras, not only the environment that I am born in, but my personality through samskaras, the kind of thoughts that I have, my ability to choose between good and bad is all given to me. Anything that is given to me can be termed as Saguna Brahman. All the gunas the entire wealth the entire ability for me to enjoy life is all given to me. This is segmented under Saguna Brahman. I meditate upon the fact that I am not a separate entity from Brahman, from Ishvara. I am the same. This is Nirguna Brahman. In one way, I meditate that even my Swarupa is given to me. But my Swarupa the Nirguna Brahman, the Atma, is not given to me as a giver and taker, but given to me as the very Swarupa of Ishvara. So I meditate upon the fact that my entire being me as a person and my entire personality is a gift from Ishvara. My sense of being isolated and separate is not correct. Ishvara is me. And Ishvara is the Antaryami, that regulates my life as a personality. My directions, my ability to follow directions, my thoughts, things that happen to me, both good and bad, is revealed to me by the Antaryami, Ishvara, working through me. I meditate upon the fact that my entire being is but an expression of Ishvara. A sense of isolation, a sense of individuality separate from the whole, is just a confused thinking. I am really sitting supported by my Creator. There is no need for me to worry. I meditate upon the fact that my entire being, both my Swarupa as Nirguna Brahman and my personality as Saguna Brahman is not mine. It is in fact Ishvara. I am an expression of Ishvara, not separated, not separate from Him at any time, under any circumstances. A meditation on who the real owner is an important one. What is given to me, I can call as mine but only in a relative sense. It is loaned to me. The real owner of me and the things given to me is Ishvara. May I learn it, recognize it, and meditate upon it. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Kesavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Givratmeti Mukti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let's chant number 9, 10 and 11 verses from the Upanishad. Jagrita Sthanaha, number 9. Jagrita Sthano Vaishwanaraha Akaraha Prathama Matra Apteradi Matvat Apno Matvat Vap so Apte Adi Matvat Va Apnoti Havai Sarvan Kaman Adishcha Bhavati Ya Evam Veda Adishcha Sabhavati Swapnasthanas Taijasaha Swapnasthanah Taijasaha Ukaro Dvitiya Matra Utkarshat Ubhayatvat Va Utkarshati Ha Evai Jnana Santatim Utkarshati Havai Jnana Santatim Samanascha bhavati na asya brahmavid kule bhavati ya evam veda sushuptasthana prajñah makaras tritiya matra mitehe apiterva minoti hava idagum sarvam apitischa bhavati ya evam veda. And now we will chant the Karika verses 19, 20 and 21. Okay. Vishwasya atva vivakshayam adi samanyam utkatam matra sampratipattau syat apti samanyam cha tejasasya utva vijnane utkarsham drishyate sphutam matra sampratipattau syat ubhayatvam yat tatha vidham makara bhave prajñasya man samanyam utkatam matra sampratipattau tu laya samanyam evacha. So what we are learning with these at this stage of the Mandukya Upanishad, where the Karika has just started, is the value for learning the content of Om, the very the beauty and the importance, more than the beauty, the importance of learning the meaning of Om in our life. So that has to be understood, and not an easy thing. And it is really meant for really advanced students who have done a lot of prior work on understanding Vedanta. And Mandukya is considered, as you know, we have talked about it before, a rather advanced, but there's no harm, even if we are not advanced students, so to speak, to learn what needs to be done. You and I may not be completely capable of understanding every aspect of that yet, but at least as a goal, it is good to know. And it's very possible that our sadhana, our life can be expedited by clarity of the final goal. But be that as it may, it should be understood that this is not an easy thing for us to see. So to put it into perspective, as we have done it before, the objective of prayer and upasana should be understood. This is a very important thing to see. So in any stage of getting from point A to point B, there are three things involved. So this is epitomized by the Vedas as karma, upasana and jnana. So doing things then having a prayerful attitude, and then actually understanding the result of what you are trying to do very clearly. But this is the process that we have to go through. So here Swami Vishwananji has pointed out again and again that is not any different from what we do in our lives when a child has to learn some new language, for instance. Like some of you are learning Devanagari or to write in Sanskritam. It's exactly the same. So in some ways you have to understand what is ka, how to write it, and so this can be termed as a karma, termed as a karma, where you have to know the basics of what Devanagari is, what is the alphabet, and so on. Then the second part of that is where you kind of know it, but you are not really used to it. You still have to, the third stage, let's look at the third stage. The third stage is where the language becomes a complete facility. You can use it, you can talk about it, you can understand it, and you've kind of like mastered it. So this is the third stage. So between the first stage and the third stage, there is an intermediate stage. And the intermediate stage is you kind of know it, but you kind of don't know it. You know that this is an alphabet, but you're not used to it yet. You're still sort of struggling. So comparable to that is the three stage of the understanding of Brahman, which is karma. Karma in the sense that the way the whole life is to be structured is part of the karma, and the karma yoga, and so on and so forth. And then the final thing is where you are absolutely free from any problems, which is the goal and which is a reality. We have to see that very clearly. Not some kind of like a pie in the sky. It's something that that's the very purpose of my life, is to become totally free. This is what we have to see. But I haven't mastered that yet. It's there, just like any language also. I mean, you see the poets of Sanskritam, it's just amazing. Their use of language and subtlety and so on and so forth. So it's possible. But for a person who's just starting to learn alphabet, it looks like, I don't know when that will happen. It'll happen. So similarly here also, total freedom is something which is actually very interesting, because it is praptasya prapti. It's not something you have to achieve different from you. It's just that we were saying in the meditation that we just don't know that I am not isolated, that I am not a separate individual. We just don't know it. But the fact is we are not. There's only one thing, which is Ishvara. And we just have to see that very well. So anyway, so that is the goal. There is an intermediate stage called Upasana. And so just going back to the fundamentals of what the Upasana is, and the fundamentals of the Hindu thinking, the Vedic thinking, the importance of temples, importance of an altar. We should see this very clearly. And so there we, just to remind you, what we saw was that it is a superimposition, a forced superimposition upon something which is reverse of what you normally do. See, so what we normally do is, as we saw, just to remind you of those examples that we saw, that what we normally do is, when a child is born to you, it is Ishvara's creation. And really, if you just look at it, it's an amazing history. A person who is born to you has an amazing history. They were great-grandfathers or great-grandmothers at one time. Many times. Lots of families, lots of interactions and so on. But now they are born to you like a little baby. And all you see is, this is my baby. And it's kind of like an iceberg. What you see is just the top. What's inside of that? The huge iceberg, and you don't see. So therefore, the point is that you make, depending on whatever your understanding is and so on and so forth, you make a false superimposition on something which is true. The truth is that this person who is born to you has a huge history and a huge future also. And just for a short time, you are connected together. But you don't see all of that. That is the reality. What you see instead of is, this is my son. And my son should be behaving like this. He should be very nice to me. And so on and so forth. And where were you last night? What did you do? And this is what we all see. So we have a false superimposition upon a huge reality. But Swami Maheshananji very beautifully pointed out, you can reverse the whole thing. You can reverse it. You can reverse it, which naturally it is necessary for you to reverse it. And the reversal is that you take something which is not obvious to you and you impose reality on top of that. You see, this is an important thing to see. That our gut reaction is that we impose non-reality upon reality. As just as a reality in the sense that the reality of the person who is born to you is that if something was revealed to you, if the history of the person born to you is revealed to you, you'll be amazed how capable that person is and what a history it is. And also you will be amazed at what the future of the person is. That's the reality. But we superimpose non-reality on top of that. And so the very process of upasana is to reverse that whole process, where you take something which is not true. And not true meaning that really this vigraha of Dakshinamurti is not Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is much more than that. But you know what we can do? We can now temporarily force an imposition of Dakshinamurti on this vigraha. And the reason for that is that I need to meditate upon Dakshinamurti. Why do I need to meditate upon it? Because I don't yet have true knowledge. And it is very comparable to the poet of Sanskritam. I don't have full facility. I haven't mastered Sanskritam yet. So I have not mastered the art of seeing that really I am not an individual. I'm really nothing but an expression of Ishvara. That I have not mastered. I can't see it yet. But in order for me to see it, there is something more than just pure karma involved, which is I have to really focus on the fact and begin to have a love for it and to meditate upon it, and then require the help of the Creator. That listen, I'm sorry, I'm just making a mess of my life unnecessarily because of my sense of isolation. Please help me regain the sense that I am really nothing but you alone. This is what needs to be done. And so the upasana is an aid for us to do so. So that is the very whole, that is the beauty of going to the temple regularly. Because you can see your thoughts change when you go there. And to really have a certain bhavana towards that this vigraha can yield some love and affection and some results for me. It's a very beautiful thing to do. And slowly you can just develop uh, a dedication towards a focus towards that, which ultimately leads to jnana. So in fact, I think this is the this is the beauty of, I think, what our acharyas, Swami Dayanandji, Swami Chinmayanandji, and so on and so forth, they have so beautifully pointed out that it is that going to a temple is even more important for a Vedantin. Yeah, because there are all kinds of funny things that go on, because what happens is that you feel that people that go to temples and so on and so forth, they are not very progressive people, and Vedanta is the main thing. You have to really learn about it and so on. Not true. I mean, you can do that if you want to, if you just want to go to the temple and just ask for some boons that make my sure that my son gets into Harvard or something like that. That's fine. You can do that. But the main beauty of prayers, and this is what our acharyas have pointed out, is for the Vedantin. Because their sense of prayer and upasana is extremely valuable. And how is it valuable? Because of this intermediate stage. Anyway, so that's just a reiteration of what we are doing, understanding the Om. With respect to that, it is said, yes, you can actually take a physical object like a stone and superimpose Vishnu on top of that, or Ganesha on top of that. You can do that. This is what you call pratima. So pratima means a physical object. Or you can take a pratika. A pratika means not a physical object but a word, and do the same upasana on top of that. Same upasana. You can do that. And the best word for a Vedantin is Om. And not arbitrary. Let's choose one sound and that's not that. Om, in fact, is given to us by Ishvara, saying this is the most appropriate name for me, Ishvara says. This is that important. And so really what we are learning in understanding the Mandukya is how, why is it so important for me? And what we have been studying is that it is important because it reflects the completeness of my life. It represents all segments of my life. It represents all phases of my life, all stages of my life. Through Jagrat Avastha, through Sushupti Avastha, through Swapna Avastha, through Turiya. And so this is what is so important about it. And then once we do that, then the question is, how is useful to me in doing upasana? How should I do it? What do I do? And how is that related to me? So that is now pointed out by Gaudapada in the Karika. And just this one segment of these three verses, 9, 10, 11, and then the 19, 20, 21 is a very important one. And furthermore, it requires a highly accomplished acharya like Swami Maheshanandji to point out the subtleties of this, as we will see that even today again. So we started out by verse number 19, which we have done already. And there he says, Vishwasya Atva Vivakshayam. And so one thing I'll point out based on what Swami Maheswaranji pointed out, if you now compare the first quarter of the three verses, 19, 20, and 21, just for a second, and then we'll come back in more detail. In 19, he says, Vishwasya Atva Vivakshayam. So, Atva means the status of being which is the waking state, is called Atva. Following Atva is the word Vivakshayam, which we went through last week, and I'll remind you one more time today as a part of this analysis. But let's just look at it. The first quarter of this verse, number 19, is Vishwasya Atva Vivakshayam. Okay, let's go to number 20. Tejasasya Utva Vijnane. So Tejasaha, as you know, Tejasaha is the dreamer. Is the dreamer. You and I as a dreamer, because you and I are as a waker is not our Swarupa. Even now as we are talking, that is not our Swarupa. That is just a kind of like a dream-like interaction. Okay, so it's some interaction, some talking, some listening, some understanding, and so on and so forth, some transactional going on. So this is the Vishwa. And similarly, another transaction goes on, which is in the dream. So that is called Tejasaha. So then, now Tejasasya, just like he says Vishwasya, sixth case, just like of the Vishwa, here Tejasasya, Utva Vijnane. So, Ma are the three constituents of Om. So the first one was Atva, the second one is Utva, and the third one is Makara Bhave Pragyasya in number 21. Pragyasya means the deep sleeper. The deep sleeper, that also has a certain stage to it. A very interesting stage. The interesting part of deep sleep is there is no Dvaita. It's complete Advaita. And you get the benefits of the Advaita, but you're not aware of the Advaita. You come out of it just as understanding of what the whole thing is as you went in. But at least you get the benefit of it. So that is the Pragya. So Pragyasya Makara Bhave. So now I want to just point this out. Swami Maheswaranji pointed this out. Look at it, that Sri Gaudapadacharya, a very important person, really the link between Veda Vyasa and Adi Shankara, very important link. They say that Gaudapada has really provided us with a very clear understanding of the very sense of Vedanta, which was then carried forward by Govindacharya, his student, and then finally Adi Shankara. And from then it just flowered very well. It's not as though it was lost, but it's just that it was not expressed as clearly as with these people. So Gaudacharya is a very important person. That's why there's only one Karika. Only one Karika in the whole thing. There are many bhashyas, but only one Karika. Very important. So whatever he says, that Swami Maheswaranji says, every word, every letter in what he uses has to be really looked upon. Here's an example. So he says, look at this. There are three things: Atva, Utva, and Makara. U, and M. And the suffixes used after each one of them are different. The first suffix is called Vivakshayam. Atva Vivakshayam. The second one is called Vijnane. Utva Vijnane. Number 20. Tejasasya Uttva Vijnane, not Vivakshayam. The third one is called Bhave. Pragyasya Makara Bhave. So there are three words used. Vivakshayam, Vijnane, Bhave. Why? There's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. And the first reason we already saw in the last few classes, which is explained by the word Vivakshaya. Vivaksha is an important word. Vivaksha means Vaktumicha. It's a sananta. Vaktumicha means the intent of saying something. Not what is being said, but what is the intent behind it is called Vivaksha. And so Swami Maheswaranji also points it out that, for example, when you want to, he spends a lot of time discussing this, several pages on this, very beautiful. He says that suppose you were to, you want to teach your child something. Like, for example, supposing the child is picking up something from the ground, which happens all the time. You know, when the child is growing up, 1 or 2 year old, there's some food has already, and the food seems attractive to the child, so he picks it up and eats. So the parents say, please don't do that. So when the parents say, please don't do that, this is called Vivaksha. You see this? You see this clearly? So when you say, please don't eat that, it doesn't mean every time something drops, I want to say it. What I want to say is that any time something drops on the ground, don't ever touch it again. This is the Vivaksha. In other words, you want to, the intent behind your saying is that behavior should change. Because you're not going to do that every time and say, okay, pick that one up. Yeah, this one you can eat. That one, no, don't touch that. You're not going to be there. You want the child to grow up on their own. And so you say something where there is an intent behind it. Remember that example that Swami Maheswaranji pointed out, which is a real life example, that there was this Swami who was teaching the Jain sadhu about Vedanta. And so Swamiji said, you're teaching a Jain sadhu about Vedanta. You know that we are very different from each other. Why are you spending time doing that? So this fellow gave out a very good example. He says, I am doing it because he's not going to understand any of this. He's not capable of understanding Vedanta. But the guy is a sadhu and he wants to come and just spend some time with me, and many of the things are common. So there is no vivaksha there. You see this? It is like telling a child, don't eat that, but not explaining why not. See, the vivaksha of telling the child is that please don't pick it up because anything fallen on the ground is now dirty. That part requires certain extension. The child ought to say, really? You mean the ground is dirty? Yes. So the food should not be picked up from the ground. All of that is, but the pure thing is don't eat that. So this guy was also teaching the Jain sadhu by saying, here are the principles of Vedanta and so on and so forth. But the intent is not to make him into a Jivan Mukta as in a Vedantin should be. That is not the Vivaksha. Anyway, that's a huge commentary on the word Vivaksha. So now Vishwasya Atva Vivaksha. So Atva Vivaksha means the intent of understanding the importance of Om has three parts to it. One is Attva, one is Uttva, and one is Makara. Those are given in these three verses, 19, 20, and 21. The Attva means the presence of which means the presence, something which is common in whole thing. That way of looking at life is called Attva. So it's already said that. He says, Adi Samanyam Utkatam means that, really speaking, all things spring from the experience of Jagrata Avastha. And we saw so many different ways of looking at it. I think I can't even remember all the things we talked about. Yes, that was the key thing. If you remember what was the key thing on that was that the example of heat of the fire. So if we just focus on one thing, let's just do that. That the knowledge that there is only one source of heat in the whole world. You may experience it in different ways, but all the time, the knowledge means the only thing which is independently hot is fire. Nothing else is independently hot. They may be hot, but they are a reflection of the independence of the fire. This is the example. What we need to see through the Attva, that there is only one source of sentience. We may have a little bug. In fact, when I brought the flowers, I'm very careful to make sure that I don't carry all the bugs with me. And I think I did a good job, except there was one. I was just opening it and he's somewhere there. So I just flicked him off and I said, I'm sorry, I've brought you up from my home over here. That bug has a certain sentience. You are also sentient. I am also sentient. We are all capable of moving our hands, talking, listening. That sentience belongs to Ishvara. We are all reflecting it. This is the Attva. Attva means one which is there everywhere. Only one. And what it really means is, the implications of this are enormous. That when we transact with each other, we transact to each other as isolated people. Why did you do this to me? This, that, or the other, and so on and so forth. But if we see that, really speaking, it's kind of like, you see two waves of the ocean. And really what you see is the expression of the ocean between those two waves. You see water more than you see the form. Then our life becomes totally different. There's a certain softness to it, a certain beauty to it on our transactions. You see the hand of Ishvara in all our transactions. And it is not meant for pleasing Ishvara, not the purpose. Ishvara doesn't need any pleasing or anything like that. He doesn't need any, he's not running for office, doesn't need your votes. What it is good for is you. Because the sense of isolation is predicated upon the fact that I don't see things as I should. So this is the upasana of the one portion of it. And so therefore, this is used in the term vivaksha. Vivaksha means that you should see that there is a very beautiful creation where the same thing can be reflected in different ways. I don't know what the creation would be if there is more than one source of fire. More than one source of heat. The fire is also independently hot, and some other thing is also independently hot. I don't know what will happen. This is why it is called Pancha Mahabhuta. Mahabhutani means that this is where the buck stops. So the fire is the one which is singularly responsible for giving heat. Vayu is the singularly responsible for carrying things from one place to. So these are called Pancha Mahabhutani. And so that's what we have to. So the reason for doing that is that may we meditate upon the fact that contrary to what I am experiencing, everyone is nothing but an expression of Ishvara. Yes, I think that one of the students the other day had talked to me about the fact he was asking me about Rudram. And so he was asking me about, he says that in Rudram you say Sarvam Hi Ishvara. Then how come he says Daridryam is Ishvara? Daridryam means extreme poverty. What is the reason for doing that? And my understanding of, as I explained to him, was that really you say, like everything is Ishvara, even a Daridryam. You see, when you say something, you can take everything. Like sometimes we have a cleaning lady that comes to us, and wonderful lady. Just our life is so pleasant because of some of the workers that we are surrounded by. And so she comes in. And so whenever we have something which is not needed, we give it to her because she takes it to the church. And she distributes everything to the church. So just the other day, this just thought came to me. So I had a pair of shoes that I had hardly ever used. They were just sitting new, and there's some reason I've got other things, so I thought I'd just give it to her. So I told Christina, I said, Christina, please take everything. Because we put a lot of things in the bag. And even these shoes. So she was surprised. She says, these are new looking shoes. I said, I know, I don't need them, please. She says, oh, the wonderful people in the church would love this. So she took it. So the example is that when you say sarvam, means take everything, but you point out something in particular, even this is something good. So in Rudram, there is a word which says Daridra Brahma. So the reason for doing that is that when we see people, and suppose you see someone who is very pleasant and good looking, very beautiful person, and also very kind, and so also very everything seems very wonderful. You say, wow, what a creation of Ishvara. That's easy to see. Supposing you see a person who's missing a limb, like in India that happens. You find that people that are missing some legs or hands or something, they are begging, and they are badly shaped and they are in very bad condition. Then the thinking is that how did Ishvara create this? That cannot be Ishvara. No. That is also Ishvara. That is also Ishvara. It is the same thing. And so therefore, to seeing the Attva means this, and this ability to have a soft touch towards the world is not easy. You have to work towards it. This is why you have to keep on doing puja in the temple until the temple becomes your own heart. So this process is what is called, this is the vivaksha. So the vivaksha is that may you see that there is one source of sentience. This is the vivaksha. And this is the reason for the akara. Now let's go to hopefully we'll finish all three today. So the second one is ukara. Here, the word that Sri Gaudapada uses is vijnanam. Taijasasya utva vijnanam. So the first one is called vivakshayam vijnane. Vijnane means this is called sati saptami in the seventh case. Vivakshayam means in the case of attva is called vivakshayam, seventh case. Here it is called vijnane, also the seventh case, location or with respect to the subject. Utvasya vijnane. So let's understand this. Vijnanam is the term used as an enhancement of the word jnanam. And in fact, this is going to come in Gita also today. So jnana, vijnana. Sri Krishna also uses it both. What is the meaning of the word vijnane? So here, so vijnana means, so let's look at the verse Uttva first. Okay, so Uttva versus Vijnane. So on the Attva, on the what was the main sense that we saw? The ability to know that there is only one source of sentience. That was the main thing on the Attva. What is the corresponding one for the Uttva, for the Ukara? The corresponding one for that is to know how things are extracted. How things are extracted, pulled. Why should we know that? What's the importance of that? So here the example Swami Maheshanji gives is, when you make yogurt or ghee from milk, you extract a new form from the milk. So in doing so, there are two things involved. One is that milk must have the ability to generate yogurt or ghee. You cannot do that from water. You cannot make ghee from water. So you have to you have to have the base of milk, number one. The second thing is that what is extracted from it does not look like the original. Okay? So now our focus on the Uttva is to understand the whole world, how things are extracted from something. So the Attva was the singularity of the source. Uttva is how things are extracted. What do you mean by that? So it is pointed out that Ishvara has shown the way a dream is extracted from the Jagrata Avastha, from a waking state. Very interesting thing. So a dream cannot happen unless you have some waking experiences. Just like a yogurt cannot be unless you have milk. So the dream is not an independent experience. It is an extracted experience. Okay? So this is one step. This is an important step to see. Now we extend this logic to say, and also the other thing is that the dream doesn't look anything near like what the Jagrata Avastha is. So it's like yogurt, which has nothing to do with what milk is. Not nothing means it tastes, it has the same color, but the shape is different, the taste is different and all that. Now the same thing can be expected, that you and I have certain experiences, our way of looking things and so on and so forth. This is the Jagrata Avastha. Any Avastha, here, not Jagrata Avastha, any state. Any state must have been extracted from something. Any expression is really nothing but an extraction. What is the extracted from? So therefore, what we have to see is that my present situation, where I am, my shape, my health, my age, is extracted from something. There is a huge history behind me, huge amount of thoughts, actions, results of the actions. And as a result of that, I am now extracted to be what I am. And so there is a connection. So you see the connection behind it. It's not an isolated kind of a thing. Again, the same thing happens. What happens is that our normal propensity is that here's what I am. I don't know what my future is going to be like, what my history is, and so on and so forth. It's actually a very continuous phenomenon. There is nothing isolated about it. This is the way it is supposed to be. I am where I am because of lots of different reasons. I could not be any place else. And in going to the future, I can shape it to a certain extent. But once I see the whole phenomena, that the entire samskaras are extracted from the previous experiences, just like a dream is an example of an extraction from the Jagrata Avastha. Similarly, the Jagrata Avastha is also an extraction from a huge amount of samskaras. And that it is, so you begin to be less isolated. This is all a big molecule. And the ultimately thing is that it's going to continue on forever unless I see this is not really who I am. This is just another dream. But in the process of looking at it, I have to begin to do upasana towards the phenomena. So the phenomena here is the extraction, the pulling of things from it. And there the term Vijnanam is used. So Vijnanam here means, Gaudapada has used this term Vijnanam as knowing this very well. So Vijnanam here means almost like experiencing it. So Vijnana and Vijnanam, it has so many different commentaries on that. It could be Paroksha Jnanam, Aparoksha Jnanam. Some not very clear knowledge and clear knowledge. So this clarity is the one that we should develop. And the one that it leads to is, I am completely connected. I'm like an iceberg that is showing up very visibly to others, interacting visibly to others. But behind this, I have a huge amount of samskaras and vasanas. And also another thing Swami Maheswaranji pointed out, he says Vijnanam has to be done slowly. It cannot just suddenly go from point A to point B. I have to slowly develop. There's a certain momentum. I'm a huge ship that has to be slowly turned around. But then I should turn it around. Even though I am not able to turn it around very quickly, doesn't mean that it cannot be turned around. So there is no need for impatience, no need for disappointment. This is the way it is. It will happen. He gives a very interesting example. So, he in this context of a slow extraction, even in the making of ghee and yogurt, it's not a switch. Not a switch. You have to, do the right thing and slowly keep stirring it if you're making ghee, and then slowly it starts to become something different. So here he talks about this. So apparently, he says that Swami Vivekananda, and this happened to Ramakrishna and all of them. So you probably know this. I also didn't know this, that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a great student of Kali as a Devi. And in fact, he had special powers, which is very possible, absolutely. And so Devi, if you do a lot of puja towards the Devi and you want some of the powers, you can get it. And I'm not sure all the powers, but he could actually see things that others could not do, and so on and so forth. So one time, there was a Vedanta teacher who, and this was an interesting thing, I didn't know this, his name is Totapuri. So there is a town in Punjab called Totapur. And so his name was Totapuri. He's from Totapur. And he was a fully realized soul. He had a complete clarity of what it is and so on. And he was like a mendicant, just moving around. Every place was his own. Somehow he went to Bengal. And he had heard about Ramakrishna as being a great bhakta of Kali and so on and so forth. So he spent some time with him. And Swami Maheshananji was saying that he said, this is a very interesting guy, but he doesn't know the truth. He's a great bhakta of Kali and he's got a lot of powers and so on, but he does not know that he is none other than Brahman. But the fellow is very sharp and he has got a lot of ability. I think I should just stay here and teach. So he did. So he taught him about the presence of Ishvara and the presence of Brahman. And all of a sudden, Ramakrishna became very quickly, he was like an Uttama Adhikari. Didn't take him long. He says, my God, I didn't know this. So he became a Vedanta teacher very quickly, Vedanta. And Totapuri moved on. He stayed there for a few days. He says, my job is done. Hopefully I've lit a lamp with this guy, and he moved on. One of the students of Paramahamsa was Swami Vivekananda. He may not have been a Swami at that time. I don't know the history. I don't have time to look into that anyway. So Vivekananda also was very bright. And he also got the gist of what this Vedanta was all about. One of the Swamis there, is what the story is about, is called Swami Abhedananda. Swami Abhedananda was like also a Upasaka. He was not a Vedantin, but he was just doing some prayers to some things, and he was a great bhakta. Bhakti was his main thing. A wonderful person. Vivekananda apparently went to him and said, do you know you are a great bhakta? You know the truth about yourself? He says, no. He had a great admiration for Vivekananda because he was a senior guy. So Vivekananda told, this is not the real thing. You not to know the real thing. So he says, what is it? Tell me. So he says, you come with me tomorrow and you please keep your hand on my body, and I will teach you the ultimate meditation from which you will be able to see. So he says, really? So he came, and so Swami Vivekananda gave him a meditation and taught him some things. But the fellow is not ready yet. Just by touching and so on and so forth, really nothing happens. But he was very impressed because he had a lot of faith in Vivekananda, so he was very impressed. Apparently, the next day, Vivekananda got a tongue lashing from Ramakrishna. Either he bragged to him himself that I told this to Abhedananda or whatever. He gave him he says, it's the stupidest thing that you could have done. So he says, why? What did I do wrong? He said, the fellow is not ready, and let him take his own time. Now you're going to create a conflict in him. Because should I do the bhakti as I used to do before, or should I now go into the jnanam? He says these takes take time. So vijnanam here in the sense is that you have to slowly develop the understanding. It is not going to happen right away. So the extraction, utva vijnane means the extraction of how the samskaras lead to a present life and how they are moving forward, all has to be turned around slowly. This is the reason for the word vijnane. So the difference is jnanam can be done quickly. Jnanam can be done quickly because you can understand some, you read some books and so on and say this is the Atma, this is Anatma and so on. But to see it very clearly, which means vijnanam, has to come slowly. And going back to the way language is learned, it doesn't happen right away. I am really amazed how quickly it happens in young kids. They have some special abilities from Ishvara. How they learn new languages is just incredible. I still remember my niece in India. So my sister and her husband, they were posted in Cuttack in Odisha. And so my niece, who's now in her late 50s, almost 60 years old, but I still remember she was 4 when she came to visit with us. This 4-year-old knew 4 languages. She knows Hindi, which is our mother tongue. She knew English. Her nanny was an Odia person from Odisha. So she picked up some Odia from her. And one of their friends was a Tamil speaking person. So she could really speak, not fluently, but she could speak 4 languages. Amazing. It doesn't happen that quickly. You and I, if we start learning a new language, it takes a while. So similarly, Uttva gives the instructions that please see the interconnectivity, the extraction, the pulling, but it has to happen slowly. So this is the second one. And I think we would leave at that. And I was hoping to finish the third one also. And so I will just say this, that Gaudapada has used the word bhava for makara. So those are the 3 words, remember those? Vivaksha for the attva, Vijnana for Uttva, and Bhava for Makara. And what the reason for that, I think we will go over that in the next class. So I'll end and leave some time for some questions. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahisha Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Shobharahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah Hari Om. Did you have a question? Sorry.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question. This is kind of like a summary of 8 Upanishads.
Okay.
I was just reading that. And it says in one place that Turiya and self, is it same? Isn't it same?
Yes, so the question is Turiya and self the same? Yes, it is the same. Yes.
Then it says here, for if Turiya, whose characteristic are dissimilar to those of the self in the 3 states, be really different from the self?
So there what he's saying is that it's kind of like, the three different forms of the self. So the creation only can be a beautiful creation. If you look at it, just, Ishvara's creation. It is different and it is non-different. So, we have taken many examples of that. So our typical example is that of one change that we can make is that suppose you have 3 icebergs. Each iceberg is different, but they're all really water. So in that sense, the Jagrata Avastha and the Swapna Avastha, etc., they are different, but they are just simply, when you look at the reality of them, they are nothing but the self alone. So yeah, all states are they have a slight different. So there the example is not used that of the milk and yogurt, because even though yogurt is also basically milk, but it can never go back to becoming milk. And so this is what is called Vivarta Karanam. So Vivarta Karanam means one which is the yogurt and milk is called Parinama Karanam. Means that it changes its state. But the situation in our life is that the Jagrata Avastha and the Swapna Avastha and the Sushupti Avastha are Vivarta Karanam. They are like icebergs where they appear to be different, but when melted they become the same thing. There is no change in such. Yeah. So therefore then everything is Turiya alone, but they look like they are different and so on. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You mentioned about Vigyan, and takes a long time. But once you have the knowledge, paroksha, and you have faith in it that it is true, then the sanskaras for forming this life, they continue. But you should become at least a jivan mukta by that. Why don't you become? Why you have to be to Vishesh Gyan like that?
No, so the thing is that, no, you're answering, in a way, you're answering your own question, that as long as the person concludes that he or she is different from the whole, then that work continues on, even though the person is not different from the whole. But as long as the conclusion remains, you have to keep addressing it, whether in this life or next life. So the Vijnanam means that has not really taken place. Vijnana means that Jivan Mukta and Vijnanam in that sense are the same. It means that the person is still has some problems, that I think I am separate. I am not completely, So the Vijnanam, which means that if it has taken place in this context, there is no next life. You're done. Yeah. Jivan Mukta and Vijnani in this context, Vijnanam of course has different ones, are the one and the same.
Sir, I was wondering if you have the knowledge and you've got firm faith and believe you've analyzed it from top to bottom and side to side, and you come to that conclusion, the Shraddha and faith, then even though there is, the feeling when you see something different or, other people, it doesn't click, but it gradually does start to...
So the question is that this is not Vijnanam, in the sense that you look at yourself, and if you ever feel that you are now, you are getting old and there are problems and so on and so forth, that is not Vijnanam. Not Vijnanam. So even though you say that I have knowledge and I have faith and so on and so forth, that is still work in process. The work in the thing would be where you are you're not affected by anything, body, mind. You are completely separate from all of that. So that is the Vijnanam.
That means still Dehabhiman.
No, Abhimana means that so that means that it's just things happening because of prarabdha karma, but you are asangaha at any one time. If that is clear to you, then you're done. It is not clear to you, then the rest of the things like jnanam and bhakti and so on will have to continue until next life. Yeah.
Is upasana and bhakti synonymous? What is it?
Yes, I think that's a good point. They are pretty synonymous. Yeah, pretty synonymous, yeah. So bhakti and upasana are, there may be some small differences in the way the word is used, but for all intents and purposes, it is really the same. And so I think that just a few more words about that. What it really means is that you're so clear about what it is that will yield results to you that you love doing it. See, when we don't love something so love is not something artificial. It means that my commitment is that this is good. This is really good. Then the love comes from it. So introduction has to be done. One very interesting thing I think about sometimes is that the greatest love in the whole world is between a mother and child. There's nothing like it. It's the most beautiful expression. Even in that case, the love for a mother towards a newborn baby doesn't happen right away. Because the newborn baby looks very strange. It comes out of her womb and it's full of blood and all kinds of things. It looks like, what is this? You know? But then as you begin to get to know the child and it cries and you have to milk it, you give milk to her, and so on, love develops. So a familiarity and knowledge is an important precedent for bhakti. And the vice versa, that unless you have bhakti, that means that your knowledge is very dry and you are not that interested in it. So love is an important, bhakti is an important element towards jnanam. And jnanam is so they are both interconnected. Both have to be there. And then of course you have to work towards it as well. So the upasana may be just a sort of like a method of developing bhakti. Some differences in the meaning of the words, but they're pretty much the same. Yeah. Yes, Linda.
Is there a special way or means to get rid of Dehabhiman?
Vichara, thinking, understanding the real differences between them, and doing analysis. And so, Vyatireka example. We'll go into this in more in our meditation also, that you have to see yourself as, and then even when they are mixed up, slowly seeing that the separation is still there, even though. So, Vichara is the only way, Atma Vichara, Vedanta Vichara, Atma Vichara is the only way to diminish the Deha Abhimana. Yeah.
Is smriti or remembering an important part?
Yes, it is. Remembering means that, but remembering means that you must know it first. It must have been clear to you at some stage. And that clarity has to be remembered. You cannot remember something which is not clear. So the first thing is to be clear about it before you can resort to remembering it. Yeah. Vichara is the only way to know that clearly. Okay, all right, thanks. We'll see you next week.